Welcome to the Talent Grow Show, where you can get actionable, results-oriented insight and advice on how to take your leadership, communication, and people skills to the next level and become the kind of leader people want to follow. And now, your host and leadership development strategist, Halelly Azulay.
Hey there, welcome back to the Talent Grow Show. I'm Halelly Azulay, your leadership development strategist, with a solo episode. As you might know, if you're a regular listener to the show, most of my episodes are an interview with someone else sharing their expertise or experience. But because leadership development is what I do for a living, I actually also have some expertise and experience to share. And so in my solo episodes, that's what I try to do. And this particular episode is a little bit different from my previous solo episodes because I recorded it actually with video too. So in the podcast, I'm sharing the audio only, but over on my blog, I shared the video. So if you're curious to see what I look like when I talk about this, you can go over there and check it out. That actually came out a week before this podcast is coming out. But I think that you'll enjoy this even if you're just driving in the car or going for a walk or a run or washing the dishes or whatever it is that you do when you're listening to podcasts. In fact, I'm really curious to know when and how you listen to this. But this episode is all about the top 10 conversations that every leader should have with every employee. This is to give you food for thought and ideas for what is the kind of content that you should be making the topic of conversation with your employees on a regular basis. Lots of people are not really sure what to talk about with their employees, and maybe are avoiding talking to their employees as a result of that. So I hope that after you listen to this episode, that will no longer be one of your problems. But as always, I'd love to hear what you thought. Leave me comments afterwards in the show notes page, comments section, so that I can not only know what you thought, but maybe you have some other suggestions for other types of conversations that you think are important for leaders to have with employees. All right, here we go. One of the things that in my work as a leadership development strategist, I encounter a lot is people are really not sure how often and about what to speak with their employees. Because in today's world of work, let's face it, most people don't have just the job of being a manager, a people manager full time. Most of us, when we are a people manager, we are also some kind of a project manager. We have some kind of responsibilities to continue performing our technical duties, whatever it is that we've excelled in, that earned us that promotion in the first place. So you end up having to juggle a lot of different things at the same time, in addition to this responsibility of managing people and their performance. Now, I believe that a leader's job is to facilitate peak performance in others. And that means that you have to give them the resources, the skills, the ability to do what they need to do to excel in their job, to remove obstacles from their way, and to support them from the side whenever possible, to help to redirect them, to give them feedback, to give them direction. So when you are struggling to do your people management aspects of your job, one of the things that I find a lot of people fall back into is either old habits or modeling what they've seen from people who have led them. And unfortunately, I think you and I both know that there's a lot of bad examples out there. So I'm trying to do my part to stop the madness and stop getting people to continue repeating the mistakes of the past. One of the mistakes of the past that I see repeated in organizations, and in some cases it's because it's culturally ordained, is this idea that we talk to employees in a formal way once or twice or maybe 4 times a year throughout the official performance review process. And that all of the other conversations are maybe just about questions that they have or things you need to delegate to them, but there really isn't some kind of a proactive, manager-driven, regular, habitual discussion with employees that happens, or conversation with employees that happens outside of the performance management process. So this is a huge mistake. Lots of companies are now seeing the light. And in fact, many organizations are doing away with that official performance review process because it was not producing the results we need to see in the 21st century workplace. And we need to replace that, not with a vacuum, but with consistent, ongoing communication, weekly communication, even daily communication, and conversations with employees is the way to do that. So I recently wrote an article that's become pretty popular, which is the top 10 conversations every leader should have with every employee. And I wanted to go over some of those with you here to help you get a sense of what you should be doing with your employees on a regular basis. It's going to require habituation from you. That means you're going to have to intentionally plan to make this happen and create some key habits to make this a regularly occurring thing. But I hope that I will give you some ideas about the content of these conversations or the types of conversations to help make that job easier. So here are my top 10 conversations that every leader should have with every employee. And the first one is that every employee needs to be working to their strengths. I hope that you are thinking about this and that you are aware of what strengths are. But in general, the more that you can match people's work to their strengths, the better that they will perform, the better quality results that they will produce for you, and the more engaged that they will be, the more excited they will be about their work, and the better the culture of your organization and team will be. So you need to have conversations with people in order to learn more about their strengths and to make sure that they are getting a chance to use their strengths every day at work. Find out what is it that makes them feel a sense of passion, a sense of flow at work, what really helps them utilize their skills and also their passions, and what comes easily to them that other people find not that easy. Those are some of the clues about what their strengths might be. And of course, I wrote a book about this. There are lots of tools out there to help you get an actual assessment of what people's strengths are. And this is a great thing that you should be able to do because it gives you more food for discussion with them and more specific information that you can use. So have strengths conversations with your employees on a pretty regular basis. Now, that doesn't mean you talk to them about this every week because there's lots of things you need to still talk to them about. This is something that maybe you want to talk once or twice a year about to make sure that you're both in sync and that they're still feeling like their job allows them to use their strengths daily and that they're doing things that are supported by their strengths rather than always going against the grain of their strengths. Because in the end, you won't be utilizing their value, their ultimate potential value, and optimizing their ability to contribute to the organization if you don't allow them to work from their strengths. The second kind of conversation that every leader should have with every employee is goal planning conversations. Now, that probably doesn't happen daily either, but you need to make sure that at some point you're having a conversation with the employee about what their main goals are for the year. And then you're having regular check-ins with employees about what is their progress towards their goals and what changes might have happened in what their goals are, what their goals should be, what way that they should be working about those goals, or maybe the prioritization, because the world is very dynamic. Things change, organizations change, people change, workflows change. So whatever goals you set at the beginning, they're not set in stone. Now, you shouldn't throw them out the window every other day and change them willy-nilly. But they should be dynamic, and therefore there should be some tweaks, changes, maybe minor, maybe major, to the goals. So this should be something that is included in regular conversations that you're having with your employees so that they're always feeling like they understand what they're working towards so that they have the capacity to make good decisions when there is a conflict of interest or when they have competing priorities. Because a lot of time is wasted when people aren't clear, aren't sure what they should be working on. And having goals conversations can eliminate a lot of that uncertainty and time waste and improve your productivity for sure. The third kind of conversation that you should be having regularly with your employees is day-to-day performance conversations. As I mentioned before, if you're keeping performance conversations to once or twice a year, you're doing it wrong. People need to have regular information about how they're performing against their goals and against the measures of their success. They need to know your assessment of their progress, and they need to have the opportunity to make course corrections along the way, rather than finding out about something that's a problem maybe farther down the road after they've been just basically allowed to continue making the mistake over and over, or maybe doing something in a way that is less productive or less effective than they could be. Everybody has the opportunity to make improvements and would appreciate having the chance to do so by you talking with them about their performance in a day-to-day way. So you need not withhold information about their performance. You need to seek opportunities to have conversations about performance on a very, very regular basis. So a weekly check-in is one of the ways that you could do that. And that's the fourth type of conversation that I recommend every leader have with every employee. A weekly check-in, not a quarterly check-in, not a biannual check-in, a weekly check-in. That means one-on-one time that's dedicated to talking about whatever it is that you need to talk about, like updates about their project, updates about their goals, talking about how they feel, what things are going on, what's exciting to them, what is happening maybe in side projects, anything that you can ask them about and tell them from your perspective can take place during these conversations. And they don't have to be very long conversations. You don't have to schedule an hour with every employee every week. I mean, they can be 5-minute, 10-minute, 15-minute conversations. One of my friends and colleagues, Jeremy Epstein, whom I interviewed on episode 34 of my podcast, The Talent Growth Show, was telling me how every Sunday night he sits down and he schedules all the one-on-ones with all of his employees and even some of his skip level, the less than direct reports, the people that report to his direct reports, so that he is able to make sure that he saves time for those important conversations, because otherwise the work will expand to the time available. That's Parkinson's law. And it's true. It happens. So if you don't make time for those, if you don't build them into your schedule, the time will not be there. But if you do build them into your schedule, because it is your job to do that, then you will be able to make sure that you're checking in with people on a regular basis. Everything about your job will improve if you do nothing but this change. So make sure that you schedule one-on-one conversations with all of your employees. You will thank me for it. So the fifth kind of conversation that you should be having regularly with your employees is positive feedback conversations. You need to be on the lookout for things to tell them about their performance that are going well. You need to be on the lookout for ways to tell them about what you appreciate about their approach, their style, their skill, specific things they said, the specific things they did, feedback from customers, feedback from peers, feedback from other departments, all of the information that you can gather about what they're doing right. And you need to communicate that regularly. Now, ideally, what you want to do is communicate that as close to its occurrence as possible. You don't want to save it up for any kind of scheduled conversation if by any chance you're able to give them that feedback right away, okay? You can use my STS formula, which I've discussed elsewhere. I'll link to it, to know how to give that kind of feedback that is really valuable to people and helps them know what is working so that they can keep doing that. The more specific, the better. But of course, you also should be having developmental feedback conversations, because everybody wants to learn and grow. Everybody wants to get even better at what they're doing. So if you're only telling them about what's working and you're not telling them about anything that they could do to even ratchet up their performance, you're withholding information from them that they need in order to reach mastery, which is one of those drivers of motivation in the 21st century, as I've discussed before and as described by Daniel Pink in his wonderful book, Drive. So how are you helping people reach mastery if you're not telling them ways in which they can improve? Look for opportunities to give them, again, very timely, very specific, and well-defined feedback about ways in which they could ratchet up the effectiveness of work that they're doing. Now, of course, this would be the category under which you would give them information about things that you need them to stop doing, mistakes that they're making, or something that they're just doing incorrectly, because they need to know that so that they don't keep making that mistake. The seventh kind of conversation every leader should have with employees is career conversations. Do you know what their career aspirations are? Do you know what their development needs are? Do you know what their next steps are in their career, where they've been, where they want to go? And are you facilitating that for them? Because as the developer of talent, as a manager, it is your responsibility to help people achieve their goals in their careers to the extent that you can. So what do they want to accomplish in their career? And are there ways in which you can help them achieve those goals? You're not going to keep them forever. A friend of mine, Chip Joyce, whom I also interviewed on the podcast, is the CEO of a company called Ally Talent that works to implement what has been written in the book by Reid Hoffman, Ben Casnocha, and Chris Ye called The Alliance, that says that in the modern workplace, we are lying to ourselves when we pretend that it's like a marriage forever, forever until death do us part. We used to pretend that, maybe it used to be true, I don't know, but it's definitely not true now. Nobody takes on a job with the intention of staying in it forever, and no employer hires someone with the intention of keeping them around forever. So let's stop the charade and let's have conversations that are open and honest and real about the fact that when somebody joins your team, it's for a finite period of time and it's to accomplish certain goals. And so how can they add the most value while they're with you? And how can you add value to their career so that they feel developed, that they feel supported, and it actually makes them want to stay longer, not less? So talk about it. The eighth kind of conversation that every leader should have with every employee is what my friend and mentor, Dr. Beverly Kay, calls stay interviews. She was featured on the second episode ever of the Talent Grow Show, and she's co-authored a book called Help Them Grow or Watch Them Go. And Beverly Kay is a very wise woman because it's true. So what is a stay interview? Well, I bet you've heard of exit interviews, right? Here's what's really absurd about exit interviews. Organizations often don't talk to people, managers don't talk to people until they are about to leave. When they've decided they're done, they've had it, they want to go somewhere else. Now we suddenly want to know what's going on. Could we keep you? What could we have done differently to keep you? Why are we waiting until they leave or until they've emotionally disconnected to have that conversation? We should be having conversations all the time about what do we need to do to keep you here, to keep you happy, to prevent you from exiting. So those are stay interviews to oppose the exit interviews. So if you're having conversations with people all the time about what they need, about what they want, about what could help them feel even happier in their job, about what things are maybe getting on their nerves or not working for them, the better you can do to keep them happy, to keep them engaged, to keep them motivated, and to keep them performing at their top performance, which is what you want. So stay interviews are a fantastic kind of conversation. So I will link to that, to the book and to the interview with Dr. Kay, so that you can listen to that to learn a little bit more about that. The nice kind of conversation every leader should have with every employee is impact conversation. And that's to just help embed and contextualize for every employee how what they do supports the bottom line, how what they do contributes to the ultimate mission of the organization, how what they're doing helps the organization do what it promised its constituents that it will do for them, so that they never feel like some kind of a cog in the wheel, so that they never feel like that episode in I Love Lucy where Lucille Ball is trying to learn a job where her whole job is to just wrap chocolate bonbons. I don't know if you've ever seen this video. You can Google it watch it on YouTube. It's hilarious. All she knows is that there's a little hole in the wall and little chocolate bonbons come out of it, that hole on a conveyor belt. Her job is to wrap them up in these little packages and send them on their way down the conveyor belt through another hole in another wall. She has no sense of the impact of her work on the end consumer. She doesn't see people enjoying the chocolates. She doesn't see their hands not getting dirty or dirt not getting into the chocolates as a result of the fact that she's wrapped them so well and so on. And so her job becomes so isolated and it's like she has tunnel vision about what she's trying to do, to the extent that she doesn't care that much about what she's doing. Now, of course, there's a lot of comedy involved and it's on purpose that she really, really is very clueless about what she's doing. But I think it delivers a very good point, which is, does every one of your employees see the connection between what they're doing on a daily basis to the ultimate mission of the organization, to the results, to the satisfaction of the clients, to the value to the shareholders, or whatever it is that you're trying to achieve in your mission? Make sure that you talk to them about that on a regular basis, not just once a year. Okay. And then finally, the 10th conversation that every leader should have with every employee. By the way, these are not in any particular order. I should have said that earlier, but they're just generally 10 types of conversations that you should be having. All right. So the 10th one, are you ready? Is development and training conversations. Now, I come from the world of talent development and training and employee development. So this is near and dear to my heart. I wrote a book about this called Employee Development on a Shoestring that helps busy managers get more ideas about how they can help develop their employees without always having to just send them to some training class. Because let's face it, first of all, there aren't training classes for every kind of development need. Second, we don't have time to send people to so many training classes. Third, we don't have the money, the budget to send people to so many different kinds of training classes. And fourth, some things are not best learned in a training class. They're best learned in some other way. So you need to think about, what does each employee want to learn? What skills do they need to develop? What are their goals in terms of their mastery trajectory, and developing the kinds of skills that will help them not only in their current job, but in their future jobs? And how can you support their learning needs? So there are lots of ways that you could do that. I mean, volunteering is one way, mentoring is another way, on the job learning through shadowing or job rotations. There are lots of ways that people can develop skills that don't require sending them to training. So check out my book, Employee Development on a Shoestring. It's on Amazon and everywhere books are sold. Of course, here on my website. But there are lots of ideas that I can share with you, and you need to make sure that this is part of your regular conversations with employees. So I've shared with you the 10 kinds of conversations that I think every leader should have with every employee. And I think that if you make time for these, they're not all 10 every day, all the time, but all throughout the year, you need to be regularly having conversations with employees. And these are all the types of things that you should be talking about with them. In addition to just asking them about their weekend and asking them about their summer and asking them what makes them tick or what makes them happy or what really gets on their nerves, just so that you get to know them and build trust and build a camaraderie. All of those things are going to go so far in helping you with your job, in helping them with their job, and in helping the organization get things done in the best possible way. Okay, so what did you think? Was that useful? Did you get some new ideas? Do you think you're going to use any of these types of conversations going forward with your employees? And if you're not yet a manager or a leader officially, this doesn't mean you can't use any of this information, because first of all, these are the kinds of conversations you can have with your peers, employees. And also, these are the kinds of conversations that maybe you can initiate with your manager, with your boss, because let's face it, maybe they didn't hear about these ideas. Maybe they didn't think about it. And it still would make your relationship much better and would make your work situation much better if you did talk about these things. So that might be an idea for you to consider. But at any rate, I would love to hear what you thought in the comments. Just go over to the show notes page, which is www.talentgrow.com/podcast/ episode 38. And over there is where I'll link to everything that I mentioned and give you an opportunity to leave comments. So thank you for tuning in. Hope that you enjoyed this solo episode. I hope that you will subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet, and give me a shout out over on iTunes and a rating and a review, because that's super helpful to other people, because it helps them discover the show. It comes up in their search results more. So thank you for your time. Thank you for listening. Make today great.
Thanks for listening to the Talent Grow Show, where we help you develop your talent to become the kind of leader that people want to follow. For more information, visit talentgrow.com.